If you're a fan of the Channel 4 programme Secret Millionaire, you may recall seeing Nottinghamshire man Clayton Byfield appear on the show late last year. Now, through the programme, his project, the No Gun organisation, received an unexpected cash injection which enabled the youth worker to buy an interactive double-decker bus equipped with state-of-the-art computers, a flat-screen telly and games consoles which Clayton and his team used to travel around Nottingham visiting inner-city communities and postcode hotspots vulnerable to gang culture. But just 7 months on, and the NGO Youth Bus project is having to close. And Clayton Byfield joins me now to explain. Thank you so much for joining us on BBC Radio Nottingham.
Good afternoon, Reya. How are you?
Very well. As I said there, less than a year after appearing on the show, the project's closing. Why?
Well, we haven't made a definitive decision to close the project. I think it is actually inevitable that it will close and relatively soon if we don't get the support and backing it deserves. And that's simple because of the cost to run the bus. As you said, it's quite an expensive operation. The sort of average cost is about 15 grand a year just to run it in terms of insurance, diesel, and operational fees and maintenance. That's excluding any sort of volunteers and management costs to run the workshops. So, and we're happy to do a lot of things what we do for free, as in terms of our time and our effort. But the harsh reality is a bus of that size. It's 36 foot long. It has media equipment on there. And it does take a lot of money to fund, and unfortunately, we can no longer afford to run that, purely because whilst Mark Pearson generously gave us the gift donation to purchase the bus, which cost 36 grand. If you just do the simple sums, there's never enough in there to actually keep it on the road, and that we was hoping was going to be supported by, the Nottinghamshire Police and the City Council, and last year the Nottinghamshire Police injected £5,000 into workshops in St Anne's and Radford for 6 months, and that helped us enormously to deliver our modules. But that's a short-lived injection. We actually requested 28,000, and then that was the most we was able to achieve in terms of city funding over an annual period, which to me is quite appalling, really, because it's a city project. Mark Pearson, the Secret Millionaire, through Nottingham a lifeline for Nottinghamshire Police and Nottingham City Council to be a part of, and I don't, in the most courteous manner, think that they've done enough to share the resources by referrals and by putting together strategic partnerships for young people on the periphery of crime.
With that in mind, the government say that they're supporting work to tackle violent and gang-related crime through the Communities Against Gangs, Guns and Knives funds, but not every project across the county can receive the funds they need. Obviously, that's not a kind of never-ending pot of money. Do you accept that that's fair and that some projects like yours are going to have to close?
That is fair, and I think when you look at the time of austerity and homes and all sorts of different areas of the city relies on funding, having to be squeezed by the fact of the economy. I think that is fair to say that they can't support everything, and quite rightly so. There should actually be quite determined in terms of where there is actually a sustainability of the projects they support. But I still believe, and I strongly believe, that we are ideal for the CAGGK funding, simply because we have the resource which is already available, and not just for us. It's for every partnership dealing with young people in Nottingham, i.e., whether you're Catch 22, whether you're an independent organisation, you have that bus at your resource. We're not one of these organisations who said, no, this bus is ours and it's only for our own projects. We have offered the resource to the city, to Nottinghamshire Police and to others to let's share our visions, let's share the ultimate goal, which is to stop young people getting involved in gangs and knife crime, and let's do this together. And I think the Secret Millionaire programme, quite rightly, saw the vision of which we've seen, is that going into communities, areas such as St Anne's Meadows and Radford, where there's the hotspots of gang culture, I think the bus could be an absolute, deterrent to young people getting involved if it was supported and it was strategically thought out in terms of where it can be best used.
Well, how successful has it been in the past 7 months since you appeared on The Secret Millionaire, and there was loads of media interest and your face, and the bus in fact was kind of everywhere at the time? How successful has the bus actually been in helping Nottingham youths in and around the city?
Well, we've visited schools in St Anne's, in Sneinton, in Top Valley, Bigwood School recently. We're part of sort of the A4E, which is an organisation dealing with young people. We've actually appointed over 1,200 young people visiting the bus. 400 of those have carried out hourly workshops, signed up to be involved in the modules of what we actually deliver, which is a three sort of stage modules in terms of their roles in getting involved in our programs. 400 young people are actually on board with that already. So we've had about 1,200 kids in all fairness over the last sort of year, and that's actually over a 9-month period, because for the last 3 months we've had to curtail all our activity in all fairness, Reya, because of the cost concerns.
Well, over the past 3 months, what's that meant to the young people that you had been working with previously?
Well, it's I feel like they've been let down, and naturally they've all been excited about, as you said, last year. And over the last sort of particularly 6 months, we've been actively carrying out programs in certain areas to promote the bus and offer young people alternative routes to their futures. And I think they feel let down now that we've just sort of packed up and left them to their own devices. Because the bus was actually a bit of a respite for them. They'd come on there, they'd get mentored by some of these sort of ex-gang members on there, and they'll be able to chill out and play on the PlayStation. But all the time we're actually interacting, engaging with them. So it's not just a case of just coming on there and having a jolly, if you like. It's always it's always trying to get into their minds and trying to to appear to the to the softer heart. And I think that now being stripped away from them, like a lot of projects, it's left them thinking, well, what's the point? Because we start to get ourselves involved in something positive, and then it's get taken away for some reason or other. And I think I feel a bit disappointed that we've let them down. But more importantly, I think you've got to remember we've been at this now for 3.5 years, and before the bus we did a lot of work in schools and did a lot of work across sort of youth centres in terms of our active work of delivering sort of mentoring sessions. And I think we'll continue to do that. If the bus project's closed, it's not the end of NGO. We have got plans which is involving a follow-up to our DVD Guns, Knives, Destroy Lies, number 2, which is a bit more involved in that new film, which is coming out for 2012 next year. So we still will be actively involved in campaigning to save young people getting involved in gang culture. But I just feel let down that the Home Office didn't recognise that our project fits perfectly for this, and I can't understand where their justification comes from that we're not eligible for the funding. Whether they believe that the gift from the millionaire is enough for us to carry on what we're doing. I'm not sure. They've never given us I'm still waiting for a reason for why we didn't receive that funding.
So as you say, the project itself is not going to come to an end, but the bus project is going to be closed. It's not the sort of bus that can just carry on kind of travelling people around Nottingham and go back on its routes, is it? It's a state-of-the-art bus specifically made for the work that you do. So what happens to it now? What happens next?
What we'll be looking at doing is two things. We'll be looking at potentially hiring the bus out for organisations other than ourselves to take on board for their own projects, community projects or youth projects. It could be connections or anybody of that sort of nature who's always appealing to young people. Or it'll be just typically sold to a company who deals with, entertainment of some description or other. So it'll be, and then the proceeds of that will come back into probably clearing the £11,000 debt which we've incurred as a result of being involved in setting up the whole organisation, and the proceeds of that will continue the project, particularly in terms of doing more into the schools, producing more resources like Guns, Knives, Destroy Lies. But more importantly, my aim at the moment in time is to try and create some entrepreneurs. I'm launching an enterprising scheme for bringing more sort of black guys into business, and I want them to be able to use the skills what they use out there, whether to sell drugs or to wheel and deal, into an enterprising forum. And I'm actually looking at a project now which is going to bring them into that, and we'll fund and support that ourselves should we be forced to sell the bus. We always aim to do that in terms of creating a business sort of project as part of our deliverables.
It sounds as though it would be a huge shame if the bus is sold and used just for entertainment purposes, because by the sounds of it, it has been a success in the relatively short time it's been running. But if people can help, how can they do so?
I mean, small, the very smallest of donations will be much appreciated. We're going to be announcing a couple of fund-raising days throughout the summer. We're hoping to be at the Nottingham Carnival this year, which we'll be making an appeal there. We may consider the Riverside Festival down at the Meadows there, if we can get the city to give us the spot there for free. As again, it costs us to be at these things, and then we've got to run a generator for 2 days, which is £300. So we're hoping that if we can raise a few awarenesses on fundraising days and appeal to the hearts of businesses and local people, I think we'll be able to keep this bus going. And I mean, particularly, for the good of Nottingham and young people in particular, I think my aim is to not make this project disappear. I'm a very ambitious person. I set up the organisation with no funding, and I can continue to do it without city funding. But we've always relied on people, the nature of the community and the nature of local businesses to help us along our way, because it is a people project. It's not a political project. It's a people project, and I think if we fall behind our social responsibility out there, I think it'll be a real shame, and the impact will be appalling on all of us, really.